and welcome to Times Now, Mr. Rabbi Shergill. Thank you so much for taking out the time and speaking to us. My very first question to you, sir, is that how do you see what's happening in Punjab right now, as we're just speaking a few days after the untimely passing away of Mr. Sidhu Moosewala?
What's happening in Punjab is pretty much what's happening in the rest of India. It's not overly different. We are seeing lots of things happening all at once. We have big money that's taken over, almost all our institutions, and there is a crisis of faith and leadership, and the youth doesn't quite know where to look, and it looks at politicians, it looks at all the other leaders supposedly in a society, and it doesn't find them credible. And on top of that, we have an art industry which has removed all checks and balances, all the gatekeepers. When I was starting out, we had A&R managers in record labels who would check your content. You just couldn't say, strange things on tape. But I think increasingly the stress is on publishing yourself, the stress is on editing yourself, the stress is on just winging it, just doing it on your own. We've become a DIY society, and sadly there's no other sane voice, the voice of conscience sometimes, which art usually needs. And what's happening in Punjab is we're seeing a sort of collapse of traditional structures. We're seeing when you could just publish anything that you wanted, then people started putting out the most masaledar stuff out there, and it's come to this point now. But at the same time, it's extremely sad at what's happened to Sidhu Moosewala, because it seems it's not so easy to say someone is culpable for this or that. He was an artist. He existed in a certain milieu, and you listen to all the voices, the mother culture of that place are whispering in your ears, and you start saying stuff. You're pretty much marshalling your entire environment through your art. So it makes me choke just thinking about what's going on in Punjab.
There are questions being asked about the gun culture in Punjab, gang violence and gang rivalry that has sort of premeditated itself in the Punjabi music industry. What is your view on that?
I don't live in Punjab, so I'm no authority on what's going on there. I'm a traveler through Punjab. I have a spiritual connection with the place. My family hails from there. I owned land, ancestral land in district Amritsar. It's troubling. It's frankly troubling, and anyone who has seen the dark years from 85 to 92 wouldn't wish it on their worst enemy to have to go through that. And it seems something is not right. It seems like when everything else is failing, that when farm incomes have plateaued, when the ecosystem is crashing, when the water level is receding, when we feel we are being overrun in our own state by immigrants, whole bunch of existential anxieties pop up to the surface, and sometimes how they reflect, sometimes how they manifest is not pleasant. And I feel that as we are seeing an explosion of youngsters, young population in Punjab, instead of taking us towards an enlightened direction, something that the previous generation was trying but never quite fulfilled, we are again lapsing into some sort of crude cultural memory. we are lapsing into sometimes misogyny. We're lapsing into open bullying.
And finally, sir, does it worry you that the gun culture is sort of being valorized in some of these Punjabi songs these days?
Well, you look at the South, they valorize it. You look at the film industry, they valorize it. You look at Netflix, they valorize it. I'm suggested stuff which has gore, violence, and worse. It seems like we are surrounded and in this torrential downpour of well-produced media, which caters to pretty much our lowest common denominator. And it's there in the ads. When you look at the ads, they basically are talking to you like an 8-year-old. So when even if you are a serious character, and if somebody keeps talking to you in child speak, how long are you going to retain your composure? It's like we are fated to somehow climb down the rungs of our own intellectual caliber, and it's happening to culture.
Sir, while I agree with you on that point, I want to ask you your opinion on the songs sort of valorizing and bringing out to the youth that having a gun is equal to having power or being a status symbol sort of in today's day and age.
I mean, in some sense, they are just telling the youth that they are the lords of the Mena, which is Punjab, and almost everyone else's collateral is that the message. And I was deeply troubled as a father of a young daughter, a young son. I feel the safe space shrinking. I go back to my own years traveling through Punjab in early 90s, late 80s. And my parents were very concerned. I feel the same. I think all the stakeholders have to step up. And something that we have not seen is the benign, feminine Punjabi woman has to step up. We need to see more femininity in our media. We just don't need to see, masculinity gone mad. No species can survive where masculinity just rages and it tramples everything over itself, under itself. And when you look at almost everything in our society today, everything is masculine. Our institutions are masculine. Our hierarchies are masculine. Our culture is riven with masculinity. So there's plenty of stuff there for all of us to think about. I think we need Reshma. I think we need Surinder Kaur. I think we need a very healthy dose of femininity. I think we need content which is not driving us apart. You need. Kudos to Satinder Sartaaj for doing what he does. Other people need to step up. A song is pretty much the agreement by which a society binds itself. And if it's about guns, if it's about misogyny, then those are the values that are going to define your relationship with each other. And that is what's been happening so far. There have been people from Delhi as well. I think this trend of just extreme lyrics was started by some rappers from Delhi. And you see what happened with Delhi. Some people, when that Jyoti sexual assault case happened, some people were of the view that the music and the culture had somewhat, helped it along, that it had exacerbated, all of these assaults on women. And for a while, I remember that women were not happy to step out. But now I'm finding that women are leading the charges, at least in the NCR. They are just going out on the streets. They're going on. They're not dressing conventionally. There is public display of affection. This despite almost medieval conditions for them in NCR. And I find that it is slowly and slowly paving the way for a normalization of a lot of things, a lot of human behavior for rest of us as well. I think something similar should be happening in Punjab. I think it would perhaps help all of us who have any sort of power, soft power or hard power, to figure out ways in which we can somehow release or suffuse Punjabiyat with the benign femininity or the mother's power, or just the benign femininity.
Thank you for taking out the time and speaking to us. Thank you for sharing your opinion and voicing your concerns here on Times Now. I would just like to take a minute and say that Sidhu Moosewala's passing away sure has saddened the whole nation, and the Punjabi music industry has lost a gem. If you would like to share a message to his fans and family, please do so.
I have nothing but my sincere condolences and my own love in my heart. I would like to embrace each and everyone out there who's loved him, his family, his dogs, his fans. I just hope they find it in their heart to come out of this, and but I hope they take away some big lessons out of this. I think we need to look at the heritage of Punjab. We need to look at our the 10 gurus, the life of those 10 gurus. And it was never about just pure vengeance all the time. You look at Guru Gobind Singh, you look at his 4 kids are, put to death at the hands of a brutal regime. But he never ever espoused vengeance. It's about love. I think ultimately, love is wise and hatred is foolish. And I think it's about time that Punjab needs to understand this and step out of this cycle of violence. You look at 47, you look at 84, you look at 85 to 92. It needs to, I think it's up to the next generation to think of new ways in which to take forward our society. I wish they find it in their hearts. They step into